I had something I wanted to talk to you about, and we'll just take maybe 5 minutes. Is this a good time?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I feel the need to get a little clarity on what happened Friday night when I fell asleep on you when we were going to have sex.
Okay.
So I was feeling turned on while we were out at dinner. And I know I suggested sex then. It was date night. We had the scheduled time, so we had the opportunity. And I really was feeling turned on. And I'm glad that we curled up in bed and got started. But then I fell asleep on you. And it's interesting because the turn on was still there, but I was also very tired. You know, it had been a long day. So it happened. I don't want to apologize for it, but I want to make sure that you understood that it wasn't about you. It wasn't about me not being turned on. It just, my body said, you need to sleep.
I understood.
Okay.
In fact, we cuddled.
Mm-hmm.
We were close. We had intimacy and connection.
And that really felt good to me.
Isn't that really what sex is about?
That's what I think. And yeah, there are days when I want intercourse. And in that particular case, my desire for intercourse was not as prominent, shall we say, as my desire for connection.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was fine.
okay. Thank you for understanding.
Sure.
We are the sexagenarian sages.
And we're here to bust the myths around sexuality and aging.
Mm-hmm. And this is kind of a common problem where maybe you've agreed for time for sex, maybe you've even gotten started and somebody's mood changes. And it can create a lot of resentment. And it's actually something that created a lot of resentment early in our relationship. I was not aware of it at the time. Since we've been doing this work, I've become aware of how when I was in the mood for sex and he said no, I would get very irritable, very hard to live with.
No.
And what did you do in response?
Usually I would just find ways of giving in, or I would make myself absent.
Mm-hmm. So there are differences in libido. And we wanted to take this instance that happened last Friday night and use it to demonstrate a couple of things to you. And how do you work with differing libido? And one of the first things I want to talk about is how do you define sex?
Does it have to be just PIV, or can it include cuddling, intimacy, maybe just stroking, touching? All those things can be part of the experience, or even be the entire experience. Now, we talk about the blueprints a lot, and I guess I would like to use the blueprints as an illustration here.
The erotic blueprint.
The erotic blueprints.
For those of you who haven't seen the videos, we'll point you to one that does explain them.
In the case of what we had Friday night, now you can imagine if I'm someone from the sexual blueprint. I've got to have sex. There has to be climax. That's the way things are. And you can see how I might have been frustrated, or she might have been frustrated if she were from that blueprint. I'm a shapeshifter, so I can shift into different blueprints as needed. In her case, she needed the sensuality and the energy that fit her blueprint of just being able to be cuddled, held, and have the intimacy and the connection. And that was fulfilling for her.
Mm-hmm. In that case.
In that case.
Mm-hmm. I actually do. Earlier in the day, I wanted intercourse. But my desire changed as the time went on. So as a sexual, how do you deal with it when your partner falls asleep before you get to intercourse?
Mm-hmm.
It can be frustrating. This can be one of the cases where you actually take care of yourself. You go and you masturbate. If what you're looking for is the intimacy with your partner, is there a way that you can get that without necessarily having to be intercourse?
The sexual blueprint is one that what we find is often paired with people that are not in the sexual blueprint. And so they get very hungry. They get starved around intimacy and sex. And it's something that, well, we find it often, and we have to work with those clients, both of them, to understand what blueprint or what direction the other person is coming from.
And in some cases, it can be a matter of the person who's the sexual, understanding their partner's blueprint, understanding how to turn them on and how to make them more amenable to sex.
So for the sexual, it can mean really having to do some research and spend some time to be able to enhance the relationship or to help arousal to occur in their partner so that they then can get fed, meaning the sexual, and the other person can get fed as well in their blueprint.
And there's also a bit about having empathy. Empathy for your partner and understanding what their blueprint is, what they need. If the sexual needs the direct genital contact, if they need intercourse, how do you work that in a way that feels good to the other person? And maybe sometimes it's a quickie. If the other partner is amenable, a quickie can be exactly what a sexual needs. Quickies are underrated.
We did a month-long experiment with quickies
Yes.
a couple of years ago to see how they worked for us, because quickies are something that we don't normally,
Yeah,
to me, an hour is a quickie.
yeah.
So
I think we set ourselves up for 10 minutes and it had to include intercourse.
yeah.
That was an interesting
experiment.
challenge. And it gave us a better appreciation of quickies.
Yeah. Now, understanding the other person's blueprint as well as your own can help sidestep maybe the accusations, the judgments, and the arguments that come up over you're not meeting my sexual needs or you're coming at me too hard. And once you understand what really is going on, it's not something that's meant to destroy your ego, make you feel like you're incompetent, like you're not a good lover, that you're not a good person. But instead, it's just an understanding of how the other person works erotically.
Our mentor, Miss Jaya, has a good analogy that I like. And maybe it's not that you're not sexually compatible, but maybe you're not speaking each other's language. So if you've got, and actually I think it was from an Esther Perel book, an example where
yes, it was a marriage between an American serviceman and a woman from Japan. She hardly spoke a word of English. He didn't speak Japanese, and they had to learn over time how to understand each other and speak in a way that the other understood, and they could actually develop a deep connection.
And can you imagine how that would have happened if one or the other just insisted, you have to speak my language, and that's all there is to it?
They work together to create the connection.
And you can do that in sexuality.
You can do it in sexuality too.
Okay, so common problem. There are ways to get around it. Communication is part of it. And what I demonstrated here at the beginning, the understanding that there may be some feelings around what happened, and instead of just ignoring it, addressing it and saying, okay, I had these feelings come up, or I'm imagining that you had these feelings come up. Let's talk about it. Make sure that there isn't any overriding resentment that's gonna spill out like I used to do in these big blow-ups.
And so there's going to be communication with compassion and some empathy.
We hope you found this helpful. As I said, this is just something that came up and we thought we would share it with you. So if you've got questions, drop them in the comments or send us a private message, email. Our contact information's down below. Yes, subscribe.
Subscribe!
You're giving me the chance to say it this time. Thank you. You like to say it, so I was giving you the chance to say it. Oops, miscommunication, but we worked it out. Okay, so thank you for joining us.
Till next time.